In a move that could redefine diplomatic gifting and raise legal eyebrows, the Trump administration is reportedly preparing to accept an extravagant Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet from the royal family of Qatar. This aircraft, dubbed a Flying Palace, is intended to serve as the new Air Force One, marking a significant upgrade from the current aging fleet of presidential aircraft. The announcement of this unprecedented gift is expected next week during President Trump's first foreign visit of his second term. Sources close to the situation indicate that the jet is not merely a luxury item for Trump. It will be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation upon his departure from office, further complicating the ethical implications surrounding the acceptance of such a valuable gift from a foreign power. The estimated value of the aircraft is around $400 million. A figure that does not account for additional upgrades needed to meet military specifications. As part of this arrangement, the U.S. Air Force will modify the plane to ensure it meets the rigorous standards required for presidential transport. Legal assessments prepared for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth have reportedly concluded that the gift is permissible under existing laws. These analyses suggest that because the aircraft will ultimately belong to the Trump Library, it does not violate the emoluments clause of the Constitution, which prohibits U.S. officials from accepting gifts from foreign entities. However, the legal justifications have not quelled concerns about potential ethical implications. Critics argue that accepting such a gift could be perceived as a conflict of interest, especially considering the ongoing scrutiny surrounding the Trump administration's foreign dealings. Trump's legal team, including Attorney General Pam Bondi, has emphasized that the donation is not conditioned upon any official actions, thus mitigating claims of bribery. Yet the rarity of such a situation raises significant questions about the integrity of diplomatic relations and the appropriateness of foreign gifts to U.S. officials. The decision to accept this aircraft comes at a time when the current Air Force One fleet, which consists of two Boeing 747-200 jets, is nearing the end of its operational lifespan. These jets, which have been in service since the early 1990s, face numerous delays and cost overruns associated with their planned replacements. Boeing's contract to deliver new aircraft has been pushed back to 2029, leading Trump to express dissatisfaction and seek alternative solutions, including this gift from Qatar. As the administration navigates the complexities of this arrangement, it remains to be seen how public sentiment will evolve, particularly in light of potential legal challenges. The implications of this gift will likely resonate beyond the immediate operational advantages it presents. It could set a precedent for future diplomatic exchanges and influence how gifts from foreign governments are perceived within the context of U.S. governance. Looking ahead, the upcoming announcement in Qatar will not only highlight the opulence of the jet but also test the boundaries of diplomatic etiquette and legality in the realm of international relations. As Trump prepares for this significant moment, the intersection of luxury, legality, and leadership will remain a focal point for observers, policymakers, and legal experts alike. The unfolding narrative promises to shape discussions on foreign gifts and their place in American political culture, especially in an era marked by increasing scrutiny of presidential conduct and ethics. In a move that has stirred significant controversy, President Donald Trump has proposed renaming the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Gulf, a suggestion that has provoked outrage among Iranians. This announcement comes just days before a scheduled trip to the Middle East, where Trump is expected to discuss this contentious idea with leaders from several Arab nations who have long advocated for the name change. "I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't know if feelings are going to be hurt," Trump stated during an Oval Office meeting, reflecting a somewhat dismissive approach to the historical and cultural implications of such a renaming. The Persian Gulf, historically recognized by its current name since at least 550 BC, has been a symbol of Iranian identity and national pride. The ancient Persian Empire, which included modern Iran, made its mark on the region, and the name has been entrenched in maps, diplomatic documents, and historical texts. The push to change the name to the Arabian Gulf gained traction during the pan-Arab nationalist movements of the late 1950s, but Iran's leadership has consistently defended the Persian Gulf designation as central to its cultural heritage.
The reaction from Iranians has been swift and united, transcending typical political and ideological divides.
Outrage, a historian and director at the Center for Persian Studies in California, remarked, "It goes beyond politics, it goes beyond religious divisions and ideologies, it's about the nation and its history, and it has hit a chord."
Prominent Iranian analysts and even opposition figures have condemned Trump's remarks, viewing them as an affront to their national identity.
Notably, the Iranian national soccer team has publicly displayed its support for retaining the Persian Gulf name,
utilizing social media to amplify the hashtag #ForeverPersianGulf.
While Trump may have the authority to alter geographical names used within the United States, the international community is under no obligation to follow suit. The U.S. Board on Geographic Names currently mandates the usage of Persian Gulf in official contexts. Moreover, the International Hydrographic Organization has noted the absence of a formal international protocol for naming maritime areas, further complicating the potential impact of Trump's suggestion. This name change initiative arrives amid ongoing negotiations between Iran and the United States regarding Iran's nuclear program. Syed Hossein Mousavian, a former Iranian diplomat involved in earlier negotiations, highlighted that such a provocative stance could jeopardize the delicate talks, stating, "It will just create mistrust and embolden the hardliners in Iran who say you can't trust America."
As tensions mount, the implications of Trump's name change proposal could extend beyond mere semantics. It raises questions about the future of U.S. Iran relations and the potential for increased hostility in an already fraught geopolitical landscape. While Trump prepares for his diplomatic journey, it remains to be seen how this renaming suggestion will affect both the perceptions of his administration in the Middle East and the prospects for constructive dialogue with Iran. As the situation develops, all eyes will be on Trump's approach during his Middle East visit and whether this controversial proposal will further alienate Iran or serve to galvanize opposition against U.S. foreign policy in the region. The coming days will undoubtedly shed light on the broader ramifications of this contentious issue as historians, diplomats, and citizens alike grapple with the cultural significance of a name that has transcended millennia. In an era marked by shifting political landscapes and evolving public sentiments, the intersection of governance and everyday life has never been more pronounced. As President Donald Trump embarks on his second term, confusion and concern permeate discussions surrounding his administration's trade policies and their ramifications on American families. Recent developments indicate that the administration is poised to accept a lavish gift from Qatar, a Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet dubbed the Flying Palace, which is intended for presidential use until its transfer to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation. While this unprecedented arrangement raises legal and ethical questions, it is the broader implications of Trump's policies, particularly regarding tariffs and their effect on household budgets, that are capturing national attention. The proposed acceptance of the luxury aircraft marks an extraordinary moment in U.S. politics, highlighting the complexities of foreign gifts to government officials. Legal analyses from the White House counsel's office suggest that accepting the plane does not violate the Constitution's emoluments clause, as it is to be received by the U.S. Air Force rather than Trump personally. Yet this arrangement has ignited debates about propriety and transparency, with critics questioning whether the acceptance of such an extravagant gift from a foreign government reflects the administration's priorities. The estimated value of the aircraft, around $400 million, underscores the luxury associated with this gift, especially when considering the current state of Air Force One, which relies on aging jets that have been in service since 1990. Simultaneously, Trump's administration continues to grapple with public backlash over its trade policies, particularly tariffs aimed at reducing imports. The president's tariffs have led to rising prices in consumer goods, with families feeling the pinch as costs for essential items like strollers and car seats escalate. The political fallout is palpable as some Democrats seek to capitalize on the anxiety surrounding these increased costs, positioning themselves as advocates for struggling families. With the health of the economy closely tied to everyday expenses, the potential for a shift in voter sentiment is significant.
As Democrats navigate this tumultuous political climate, they face the challenge of uniting around a coherent message. The recent rise in measles outbreaks, exacerbated by vaccine misinformation, has further complicated the narrative as parents express fear and frustration over the administration's public health policies. Figures like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., now serving as health secretary, have garnered attention for promoting skepticism towards vaccines, contributing to a growing sense of unease among parents.
Democratic leaders, including Representative Brittany Petterson,
have noted that these health concerns could galvanize voters who are increasingly anxious about their children's well-being.
The political landscape is shifting, with Republicans historically adept at tapping into parental anxieties.
In previous elections, they have successfully leveraged fears over educational disruptions in public health to rally support. However, as the Biden administration contends with its own challenges, Democrats are presented with an opportunity to reclaim the narrative by highlighting the tangible impacts of Trump's policies on American families.
Trump's remarks about the potential for children to receive fewer toys due to rising costs have sparked criticism and could serve as a rallying point for Democrats aiming to portray the administration as out of touch with middle-class families.
Senator Ruben Gallego's characterization of Trump's tariffs as a baby tax resonates with voters who are acutely aware of the financial strain associated with raising children in today's economy. As the political landscape continues to evolve, the implications of Trump's trade policies and the administration's approach to public health remain pivotal. The acceptance of the Qatari jet may serve as a symbol of the administration's priorities, but it is the everyday struggles of American families that will likely shape the political discourse leading up to the next election. As Democrats seek to capitalize on parental concerns, the challenge will be to effectively communicate their message and connect with voters who are navigating the complexities of family life under this administration. Looking ahead, the coming months will be critical for both parties as they respond to the prevailing sentiments of the electorate. With ongoing discussions about economic policy, public health, and the implications of foreign relations, the landscape may shift dramatically as voters assess the impact of current policies on their lives. The interplay between governance and the day-to-day realities faced by families will continue to be a defining feature of the political narrative as the 2026 elections approach. In a pivotal moment for global trade relations, top economic officials from the United States and China have convened in Geneva for high-stakes negotiations aimed at defusing the trade war ignited by President Trump's sweeping tariffs. The talks, which began on May 10, 2025, mark the first face-to-face discussions since the U.S. raised tariffs on Chinese imports to an unprecedented 145%, prompting retaliatory measures from Beijing that have effectively severed trade ties between the world's two largest economies. As the initial day of talks concluded, President Trump expressed optimism on social media, characterizing the discussions as a total reset in U.S.-China relations. He lauded the very good atmosphere of the meeting, suggesting that both nations are eager to explore avenues for cooperation. "We want to see for the good of both China and the U.S. an opening up of China to American business. Great progress made," Trump declared. Though he provided no specifics regarding the negotiations or any agreements reached. The economic ramifications of the ongoing trade dispute are becoming increasingly severe, as evidenced by a recent 21% drop in Chinese exports to the U.S. in April compared to the previous year. Analysts warn that the trade standoff has begun to reshape global supply chains and lead to higher consumer prices, countering Trump's earlier promises to curb inflation. The National Retail Federation has projected a decline in import cargo traffic for the first time since 2023, attributing this downturn to the fallout from tariffs. Leading the American delegation in Geneva is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent alongside U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. Bessent, a former hedge fund manager, has previously asserted that the current tariff levels are unsustainable. A sentiment echoed by many in the business community who are grappling with the financial burden of increased costs due to tariffs. Meanwhile, China's Vice Premier He Lifeng is representing Beijing, although the Chinese government has not disclosed the full composition of their negotiating team. Despite the apparent goodwill surrounding the talks, expectations for a significant breakthrough remain low. Both the U.S. and China have strong economic and financial interests in de-escalating their trade hostilities, but a durable détente is hardly in the offing, stated Ishwar Prasad, a former director of the International Monetary Fund's China division. The lack of agreement on key issues and the historical context of mistrust between the two nations complicate the path forward. Trump has floated the idea of reducing tariffs to 80%. A significant reduction, yet still far above pre-trade war levels. He emphasized that any moves to lower tariffs would be contingent upon reciprocal actions from China. "We have to make a great deal for America," he remarked, indicating that he would not be disheartened if an immediate deal was not achieved. However, some experts believe that a more substantial reduction in tariffs, potentially back to around 20%, could pave the way for more constructive negotiations. The geopolitical stakes are high, as the World Trade Organization has warned that the continued division of global trade into rival blocs could harm the global economy, particularly impacting poorer nations. As the U.S. and China engage in these critical discussions, both nations must navigate their complex economic interests while addressing the broader implications for global trade stability. As the talks continue into Sunday, the world watches closely to see if any tangible agreements can emerge from these discussions. The outcome could not only reshape U.S.-China relations but also set the tone for global economic dynamics in the years to come. With rising consumer prices and shrinking trade volumes at stake, the urgency for constructive dialogue has never been greater. In a significant moment for U.S. defense policy, President Donald Trump is reportedly considering the appointment of a Golden Dome czar as part of an intensified missile defense initiative. This move comes amid growing concerns over missile threats from adversaries, particularly in light of heightened tensions in various global hotspots. The proposed czar would be tasked with overseeing and coordinating the nation's missile defense strategies, a role that could reshape the U.S. approach to national security. Trump's focus on missile defense is not new, as he has consistently championed robust military capabilities throughout his tenure. However, the urgency behind this potential appointment appears to stem from recent geopolitical developments that have amplified the risks associated with missile proliferation. A senior administration official stated, "The idea is to have someone at the helm who can streamline efforts and ensure that our missile defense systems are not just effective but also cutting edge." This reflects a broader strategy to enhance the U.S.'s deterrent capabilities and maintain technological superiority. The announcement of this initiative coincides with President Trump's ongoing efforts to bolster the military's readiness, underscored by his recent public support for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth during a trip to Michigan. Hegseth, who has faced scrutiny and calls for resignation due to allegations of mishandling sensitive information, received a significant endorsement from Trump, who praised him as doing a really great job. This show of support signals Trump's commitment to his defense team, even amidst controversies that threaten to overshadow their agendas. While Hegseth navigates the challenges of his position, including an independent investigation into his use of communication apps for classified military discussions, Trump's administration is simultaneously making controversial budgetary decisions that raise questions about its commitment to critical research and development. Recently, the Trump administration revoked a $6.7 million grant intended for the development of the PediaFlow, a potentially life-saving heart device for infants with congenital defects. The abrupt cancellation of this funding by the Department of Defense just days after it was awarded has left researchers and advocates in disbelief. Dr. James Ontaki, the lead researcher, expressed his dismay, stating, "This grant is a small amount of money that could do so much good for so many people." The juxtaposition of these two narratives highlights the complexities and contradictions within the Trump administration's approach to defense and healthcare policy. On one hand, there is a push for enhanced military capabilities and missile defense systems. On the other, critical funding for innovative medical research is being cut despite claims from the administration of supporting new parents and families. Critics argue that this funding withdrawal is indicative of a broader strategy to downsize the federal government, leaving vital projects vulnerable to budget cuts. Looking ahead, the implications of these developments will likely resonate beyond the immediate defense and healthcare sectors.
The appointment of a Golden Dome czar could redefine U.S. missile defense posture and strategy.
While the cut in funding for life-saving medical research raises ethical concerns about the government's priorities. As the administration navigates these challenges, the outcomes will not only shape national security policy but also influence public perception of its commitment to health and welfare initiatives. As the situation unfolds, observers will be keenly watching how these decisions play out in the political arena and their potential impacts on both domestic and international fronts. The coming months may reveal whether the Trump administration can reconcile its defense ambitions with the pressing needs of public health and safety. In the ever-evolving landscape of international diplomacy, the relationship between President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is now facing significant strain.
Once united by a mutual agenda against Iran and Hamas, recent divergences in strategy have put this alliance at a crossroads. As both leaders grapple with their respective domestic pressures and geopolitical realities, the implications of their disagreements could resonate throughout the Middle East and beyond. At the outset of Trump's presidency, the U.S.-Israel partnership appeared robust. Trump lifted restrictions that had been imposed by the previous administration on military aid to Israel, encouraging decisive action against Hamas in Gaza while aligning closely with Israel on countering Iranian influence in the region. However, as military operations against Hamas intensified and Iran's influence appeared to wane, the two leaders have found themselves at odds over the best approach to these challenges. Sources familiar with the situation indicate that Netanyahu views the current moment as a prime opportunity to strike Iran's nuclear facilities, believing that the window of opportunity is closing. In contrast,
Trump is advocating for negotiations that would prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, an approach that includes the possibility of allowing Iran to maintain a civilian nuclear program.
This fundamental disagreement has alarmed Israeli officials who fear any deal that permits uranium enrichment could embolden Tehran.
Tensions reached a boiling point when Trump publicly commented on the ongoing situation in Gaza and his intentions for a ceasefire, which Netanyahu interprets as undermining Israel's military objectives. The Israeli Prime Minister is reportedly frustrated by Trump's decision to halt U.S. military operations against Iranian-backed Houthi forces in Yemen, viewing it as a retreat from a firm stance against Iran's proxies.
"They're worried about any deal," one U.S. official stated,
reflecting Israel's anxiety regarding the evolving dynamics of U.S.-Iran negotiations. While Trump's administration has maintained that it is committed to preventing Iran from becoming a nuclear power, the president's willingness to engage in direct talks with Tehran has left Netanyahu feeling blindsided. The recent announcement of U.S. halting military support to the Houthis following attacks that had targeted Israel has further complicated the relationship between the two allies. Adding to the complexity of the situation, Republican senators have urged Trump to adopt a more stringent stance on Iran, emphasizing that any new deal must completely halt uranium enrichment. However, Trump's approach has been characterized by a mix of assertiveness and negotiation,
often leading to confusion among U.S. allies in the region.
The strain in Trump and Netanyahu's relationship comes at a pivotal moment as Trump prepares for a trip to the Middle East with scheduled visits to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, but notably absent from the itinerary is Israel. Analysts suggest that this decision might indicate a shift in U.S. priorities under Trump's second administration, reflecting a broader strategy that seeks to engage with other regional powers while recalibrating the U.S.-Israel dynamic. As the situation unfolds, the effects of these disagreements will likely extend beyond the immediate region, influencing U.S. foreign policy and the delicate balance of power in the Middle East. With Trump positioning himself as a negotiator capable of brokering significant deals, evident in his recent success in securing a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, his administration's strategy will be crucial in determining the future of U.S.-Israeli relations and the broader regional landscape. In conclusion, how Trump and Netanyahu navigate these tensions could reshape not only their bilateral relationship but also the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. As both leaders face their challenges, their responses to these disagreements will be instrumental in defining their legacies and the future of regional stability.